Alright, what's going on, guys? My name is Lincolnite, and today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to ride a motorcycle. So first off, before I get too far in this video, I do just want to preface this by saying if getting into motorcycles is something that you are genuinely interested in and something that you are serious about, I highly recommend taking the MSF course or any sort of a beginning rider course, because they're going to be able to go a lot more in depth and teach you a lot more stuff than I'm going to be able to in however long this video ends up being. It's very well worth the money. I think the class I took was really only about $220-230, but I figure, you know, for somebody who maybe takes this class and finds out that motorcycles really isn't something that they are as into as they thought they were going to be, really you are only out that 200 some odd bucks, as opposed to going and buying a motorcycle, buying all the gear, registering the bike, and getting insurance, and then finding out that they don't like it. So I also really highly attribute the class to why I have been riding for 5 years and I have never been in an accident. The class teaches you a lot of really awesome stuff, so I highly recommend looking into taking the class. So first off, I'm going to go over the controls of the bike, because that's obviously something that you are going to need to know. So riding a motorcycle is quite a bit different than driving a car. You don't use your foot to accelerate. This is actually your throttle right here. So the more that you twist the throttle down, the faster you're going to go. Motorcycles are also commonly a manual transmission, meaning that you have to use a clutch and shift the bike on your own. The clutch is this lever right here. So when it is out like this, the clutch is engaged, so it is actually putting power to your rear wheel. When you pull in the clutch, it disengages it so that the engine can run, and it's not going to give power to your rear wheel. That is going to be incredibly important to learn. Your shifter is down here. It is your left foot. So it is a sequential type transmission. It's not like the transmission on a car where you are actually putting a shifter into a position. I'll put up a diagram of the shifting sequence, but basically when you are in neutral, you're going to push down and let go, and that's going to be first gear. To get from first gear to second gear, you're going to pull up into neutral and past it. That will put you in second, and then third, fourth, fifth, sixth. And then to go down, sixth, fifth, fourth, third, second, first. So we're going to sit on the bike. First thing to keep in mind with that, always get on the bike from the left side, because you are not going to have to be tilting the bike to the side that doesn't have the kickstand. So if something happens and you're on the left side of the bike, you can just immediately tip the kickstand, or you can immediately tip the bike back onto the kickstand. Your rear brake is going to be your right foot. So that's going to apply brake to the rear wheel, and then this lever here applies brake to the front wheel. So those are the basic controls. That's going to be the same for pretty much every bike, unless you are getting into very old bikes where there are going to be a little bit of some differences. You may have heard of the suicide shifter. It's actually where your clutch is your left foot and then you have a shifter on the left side of your bike. So past that, there's going to be a little bit of differences between some bikes. I have some things on here that other bikes may not have. This is going to be your headlight control, so your headlights are always on a bike. So you have low beam, high beam. That's the only selections that you have on this bike. Your turn signal is right here, left, right, and then to cancel it, you just press in. Harleys, I believe, actually have left turn signal on the left side, right turn signal on the right side. Your horn is going to be the bottom button right there. Again, that may be in a different position. I know on my CBR, the turn signals were down here and the horn was up here. My bike has hazards. Not all bikes have that. It also has passing lights where it just briefly flashes the high beams. Over here, this is your kill switch. So you actually have your key that will turn the bike on, but in order to actually turn on the ignition, you have to turn it down where the little circle is. I have modes. So I have A mode, B mode, and C mode. That just adjusts how much power the bike has. And then to actually start the bike, little button right down there. So without further ado, let me get out of first gear. We'll turn the bike on. So as you can see, there's a little green light right there that says N. That means the bike is in neutral. If it is not in neutral, the little green light shuts off. And you can also tell because the bike won't roll, it stops. So before you start your bike, you always want to make sure that it is in neutral. You want to see that little green light, and now you can see the bike rolls. Nice and easy. So to start the bike, as I said, you're going to want to make sure that the kill switch is on. So you have the little circle, not the one that has the X through it. And before you start your bike, always pull in the clutch lever. You always want that pulled in, because sometimes the bike may still start or attempt to start when the bike is in gear. If that happens, it is going to lurch the bike forward really fast and you're going to end up dropping it. So you don't want to do that. So you always want to pull in the clutch lever, make sure your kickstand is up, and you're going to press the little start button. After that, slowly let out on the clutch. Make sure that the bike does not start rolling and it is in neutral, so you are ready to go. So to start riding, if you have never been on a motorcycle before, as I said, motorcycles have manual transmissions, meaning it is not like a car where you can just come to a stop and you don't have to do anything. If you are ever at a stop, you either need to make sure that the bike is in neutral or you have the clutch pulled in. So I have the clutch pulled in, I'm going to press down on the shifter, and that puts it in gear. So you can see the green light turned off. So the first thing you're going to want to do that's going to be a really huge part of riding is figuring out where the clutch grabs. And the best way that I can tell you to practice doing that is slowly let out until you feel the bike start to move. So there, I'm not doing anything. The bike was moving. So for a little bit, just kind of sit here in one spot. Just let the clutch out till the bike starts to roll, pull in the clutch, and roll the bike back. Do that again. And just kind of sit here for a little bit, rocking the bike back and forth, just using the power of the engine to move it forward. Don't push with your legs. Just find out where that clutch grabs, because that's going to be a huge part. And I'll also demonstrate for you what happens if you let the clutch out too fast. So this is what happens if you let it out too fast. So you see how the engine stopped? What that basically means is that the weight of the bike and the friction of the tire and everything like that was just too much for the engine to handle. So what it does is basically you are applying too much load than the engine is putting out, and it just stalls the bike out. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not going to hurt the engine at all. So all you have to do, put it back in neutral, keep your clutch pulled in, start it up again. So I know it's in neutral, so I can let go of the clutch, and we are good to go. So after you've practiced rocking the bike back and forward a little, backward and forward a little bit, actually start moving with it. So what I would do here is just kind of let the clutch out, let it get up to a little bit of speed, and just find something in the road, and then pull on the clutch and apply your front brake, because you're going to want to keep your feet down for this. So I'm going to go up to that other yellow line. So I'm going to let the clutch out. Just kind of keep it right there, right where it's grabbing. Just keep it right there. And stop on the yellow line. So let's see, I'm going to go up to a crack up here. So see, I'm just keeping the clutch where it's grabbing. I'm not letting it completely out. So what this is going to do, it's just going to kind of get you used to having the bike move and getting used to letting the clutch grab. Like figuring out where it's grabbing at. I'm going to go up to the yellow line. I'm picking up a little bit more speed, and if you ever don't like how fast the bike is going, just pull in the clutch again. There's no harm in it. You don't have to always let the clutch out. It can slip quite a bit without overheating or anything. So the next thing you're going to want to do after you're used to that, you're getting used to the bike moving, is you're actually going to let the clutch out all the way. So see, it's grabbing right here. It's picking up a little bit more speed. You can kind of let the clutch out a little bit more. All right. Clutch is completely out. It's rolling on its own. Pull the clutch in. Stop. And then that's another thing. You can just do it a couple of times. Just get used to the bike rolling. Clutch is completely out. And stop. I'm actually going to flip around. Neutral. And stop. So something I've actually talked about, because I've made a couple different videos where I've given some tips about riding a motorcycle. One that I talked about is how to start smoothly without stalling your bike all the time, because starting off without applying throttle, using only the clutch to get yourself rolling, it is very, very difficult to do. So a piece of advice that I gave, I'm going to put it in first gear, is before, and this is, you're going to want to get a little more used to the bike before you start doing this, because this is kind of where some whiskey throttling can happen, which is this. What you'll do is raise the RPMs a little bit. So see, I'm just applying a little bit of throttle, and it's very smooth to help you start without it being jerky and stalling the bike. So when you are used to letting out on the clutch and knowing where it grabs and that you know you're not going to do anything wrong, just apply a little bit of throttle as you let out on the clutch. Keep it at low speed, low throttle, and when you're ready to stop, close the throttle, pull in the clutch, and apply your brakes. So now that you're a little bit used to getting started and using the clutch, applying a little bit of throttle to kind of help you get started, just practice those low speed maneuvers like that for a little bit, just so you are used to the bike moving on its own, you're used to using the clutch, you're used to applying throttle. And now we're going to talk about braking. So one piece of advice that I always give people is when you're starting to ride a motorcycle, you don't immediately have to put your feet on the pegs. What I usually like to do personally in traffic is I wait until that clutch is fully grabbed. Like, I wait until the clutch is completely disengaged, I don't have to have my hand on it anymore, and then I put my feet on the pegs. Because the thing is, when you are just first starting from a stop, things can go wrong. The traffic in front of you can immediately just come to a stop. Somebody can run a red light, and so you don't want to have to scramble to drop your feet back off of the pegs and put them on the ground should something go wrong. So I always personally like to keep my feet down, not necessarily dragging on the ground, but just off the pegs for a little bit until the clutch is fully out. That's me personally. So when you're practicing, do that. So I'm going, my feet are still down, and I'm just now putting my feet on the pegs. So now that my feet are on the pegs, how I'm going to stop is I'm going to squeeze the front brake and lightly apply rear brake. You are always going to want to use both brakes when you are coming to a stop. Because basically, imagine it like if your car only had brakes on your front wheels. A lot of people will only use either their front or rear brake, which I've never understood. You know, because like I said, that's basically like if your car only had brakes on the front wheels. So, like I said, when you're stopping, lightly squeeze your front brake and apply some rear brake. That's going to cut your stopping distance way shorter than it would be. If you have to make an emergency stop, using both brakes is going to make you stop a lot faster than if you were only using one. So just keep that in mind. Don't ever really squeeze it too hard, because that's either going to cause you to do a stoppie or it's going to cause your wheels to skid. So, you know, if you're coming to a stop from a little bit of speed, just slowly start applying more and more brake. Just get used to the brakes. And then another thing also you can do to just kind of see the difference between using one brake versus the other is start out using just the front brake and then apply a little bit of rear brake, and you will definitely feel yourself stopping a lot faster than if you only use one. So next thing I'm going to talk about is turning, because that's something you're going to need to know. Now, the really interesting thing about motorcycles is when you're going about maybe like this speed, if I want to turn to the left, I'm just going to turn my handlebars to the left. If I want to go to the right, I'm just going to turn my handlebars to the right. And I mean, you kind of have to lean a little bit, but when you get up to faster speeds, that is not how it works. This was something that was actually very difficult for me to figure out when I first started riding. When you're going faster speeds, you're going to want to turn left to go right. And I will kind of demonstrate that. I've talked about this in other videos as well. So right now, I'm going 25 miles an hour. I'm going to turn my handlebars to the right. And you see I'm going to the left? I'm still pulling to the right to go around that corner. So there was one video that I had made where I talked about things that beginning riders should get good at, and counter steering is one of the things that I talked about, and counter steering is what I just did back there. So I'll try and kind of show you guys again. I know this parking lot's kind of funky, but I'm going to lightly push my handlebars to the right, and you see how the bike falls, or sorry, I pushed my handlebars to the left, and it causes the bike to go right. So now I'm going to pull my handlebars to the right. You see how the bike goes left? That's something you're going to have to get used to. Great way to practice that is as you are going along the road, you know, if you are actually out riding, like you have a bike and you are riding around, a good piece of advice for the future is while you are riding, just find things in the road and swerve to avoid them. See if I can make it through this light, and I'll kind of show you what I mean up here. So a good way to practice counter steering, for instance, I see this pothole, I'm going to swerve to avoid it. A little patch of tar, I'm going to swerve to avoid it. Just make these split-second decisions which way you want to swerve to avoid things, and you'll get used to that concept of, if I want to swerve left, I have to turn the handlebars to the right. Another thing to do is just, you know, kind of sit here in the lane and just do this sort of thing. And you'll get used to that concept of, if I want to go one way, I have to swerve the other way. But like I said, if you're just wanting to learn how to ride motorcycles, for, you know, just real quick to get an idea, this isn't something you're necessarily going to have to worry about, but it is going to be a good thing to practice when you are actually out riding. Alright, so now I'm going to come to a stop. Now I'm going to do some downshifting, which isn't something you're really going to have to worry about, but I apply front brake and rear brake and pull in the clutch. And then I see I'm in third gear, so I'm going to want to go down to neutral. And come to a stop, put your feet down. Feather in the clutch. And then to shift, pull in the clutch, pull up on the lever, shut the throttle. Now I am doing it all as one swift motion, but I'll kind of show you a slowed down one. So I close the throttle, pull in the clutch, pull up on the shifter, let out on the clutch, reapply throttle. And that's all you have to do to shift. Probably should have mentioned that earlier. But guys, hopefully that kind of helped you out. If you are looking at wanting to learn how to ride, as I said, make sure to take the MSF course. That's really going to give you the best idea of how to start riding. They're going to be way better at teaching you than I'm going to be. But hopefully this kind of gave you a basic idea of what you're going to be doing when you're out riding a motorcycle. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel while you're at it. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you later.